morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be an overview of the new makeup releases that have been announced in the past couple of weeks, and there's a lot here, so let's get started. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. As I do every first Sunday of the month, I'm going to be doing my roundup of all of the new makeup releases that stood out to me. And boy, there is a lot. So I definitely waited a little longer than I usually do because there were a couple of things that had been announced, but then the color story hadn't been released yet. And I was like, okay, I want to film the video when the color story has been announced. So I'm leaving this to the very, very last minute. I normally film these like a week in advance or so before they go up. But right now I'm filming it like a day before you're watching this because there's a lot here, so we need to get cracking. And in case you're new here and you don't know what I'm all about, then hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I like to come in here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, Essence and Catrice reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. Because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel. And if you'd like to join the Snow Angel Club, then definitely click subscribe down below. So the past couple of months, I've been organizing this kind of video in like top 5 and bottom 5 and maybe 5 releases and like really going over what I would like to get, but there is just so much there. I've already like edited out a couple of the holiday releases that have been announced from like MAC and Too Faced and Benefit because I was like, I know I won't be buying those things. So those are like easy things. And then I still have more than I usually talk about that I still somehow wanted to mention. So that's why in today's video, I'm going to do it like just chronological order, the way I've saved them in my little folder on Instagram, and I'm just going to go through them and talk about them each individually because there's just too much. And in my brain, I can't compute. I cannot organize this into like a neat order or anything like that. So we are going to have to discuss a lot. So let's get cracking. First of all, the very first thing we need to talk about is the new announcement from both Essence and Catrice. They are going to be doing another joint collection with Disney, and this time it's going to be villains themed. Now, this was already announced at the end of August, and I don't know why Trend Mood does this, because I knew that at the moment they announced this, the new Catrice stuff had just launched, and Essence hadn't even launched their new fall winter line yet. And this, I know it's gonna come to Europe. It probably is going to have very limited availability here. So there's only going to be a couple of websites that I can buy this from. And usually they do this around like end of October, early November. That's when this is usually released. So I don't understand why this was already announced so early on. I think it would have been better if it would have been announced about right now. And I think that just has to do with the fact that in the US, these products aren't necessarily like readily available. And then I don't understand even more why Trend Mood does this, because in the US, you will not be able to get this collection if it already comes your way until the springtime. So I think the timing of the announcement is just really strange. And yes, as I do every time they do this, I'm gonna try and get my hands on these. But the Essence products I've only just done a video with. They have been out for like a week, maybe 2 weeks. And Essence has already announced a pumpkin spice themed fall limited edition as well. So that's probably going to be out first. And then we get this. So I don't see this happening until like the end of October, early November, as I've mentioned. That's when these have been coming out. I think the previous 2 times that they did a collection like this, I posted my video in like the second half of November. So I should be able to find that out. So I'm not expecting this anytime soon. But yes, I will definitely be trying the palettes. There seem to be some face products here as well. It also, again, seems to come with some palettes, some nail polish, some skincare, setting mist kind of things. So I'm just gonna have to see what the full collection is because I now just have this one overview. But the eyeshadow palettes you can bet on that I'm gonna try and get my hands on it. It seems to have the Evil Queen, Ursula, Scar, Maleficent, the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, and Cruella de Vil. So I'm sure that we've got a couple of nice things here. And then I would like to try that Ursula and Evil Queen like blushes or bronzer that they have. Those look nice as well. And I think Essence is doing the purple package things and Catrice is doing the more like beigey toned ones. At least that's what it looks like. But yeah, we'll see how this collection goes. I don't know when it's gonna come, but when it comes, you bet I'm gonna try and get my hands on this and do a review for you. Then another thing that I'm interested in is the new Lisa Eldridge drop. She has extended her range of the, what are these called? Liquid Lurex? Is that what these are called? Yes, Liquid Lurex liquid eyeshadows that she does. And there are now a few more shades that I'm interested in. And this is definitely something that I've put on the wish list. One of the shades I would hope to get is currently out of stock. It's one of the newer shade. I believe it's called Emily. And then there's another they're like more cool tones now. So she's extended the range with some more cool tones. Previously, the only cool tone that was there was like a charcoal gray, which I know I won't be using, but now she's come out with some more neutrally taupey, mauvey leaning things. And we know how I feel about those. So when these come back in stock, or when I place myself on order from the Lisa Eldridge website and I have a bit of extra budget, I might just throw one of these into my cart and try out the formula. Then a release that was announced as I had already filmed my previous video, so I couldn't talk about it just yet, but the Kaleidos Makeup Night of Creation quads and multi-chrome eyeliners. You guys were right. A lot of people were telling me in the comments and also in my DMs on Instagram, like, hey, are you going to get this? And I did buy this. It's still making its way to me though. So it usually takes like 2 or 3 weeks for Kaleidos stuff to get here. And I didn't place the order until the end of September because when this dropped, I had just been to London. And so I didn't really have the funds at the time. I was like, I'll just hope it stays in stock, and then at the end of September I might be able to buy it. But yeah, this is currently still making its way to me. When it's here, it's gonna show up in a haul for sure. But yeah, you guys were right. This is definitely one I was interested in. I mean, purples. And those multi-chrome eyeliners, like those are the kind of eyeliners that if we go multi-chrome, then that's what I want. My hair is like so windswept. I already went out. Like normally I film and then I go out the door, but this morning I had to go somewhere, and that means I've already gone out and it's super windy, so my hair has been blown all over the place, so it's not looking as great as it did this morning, so I do apologize for the hair. The next release I want to talk about is by Clarity Cosmetics, and the only reason why I've never tried Clarity is because I find them quite expensive. I mean, this new Apocalypse palette that they've announced looks really stunning. Like, the tones of this palette make me go, wow. But it's $63 US for a brand that I've never shopped with before. They are US based. I would have to get this from their official website. So it might get really expensive. And then like if there's only one thing from a brand that I'm interested in, I'm never really going to be that enticed to buy something from them. But yeah, this looks interesting. I'm not sure if this is limited edition or not. But yeah, this looks pretty, but it's just a little bit expensive for what I currently need, and I don't really need the color story, I'd have to say, but this is a very pretty grungy palette. But then when I look at the swatches, it looks a lot brighter than it looks in the pan, so I'm not entirely sure about that either. Very often when I do these videos, I skip ColourPop because they just release so much that I can't keep up, and so by the time I do these videos, like half the video would be ColourPop. But this time round, they have come out with a couple of collections that, if you know anything about me, those could be interesting to me. And one of them is the new Harry Potter collection. Now, a lot of people are sort of boycotting Harry Potter because of like problems that have been found with the books, and I'm like, yeah, I just have a very different idea when it comes to Harry Potter and a very different connotation. Maybe it's problematic now, but we need to remember that a lot of it was written in the 90s, and the 90s were a very different time period. Let's just talk about it that way. And if you do take any issues with the personal opinions of the author of Harry Potter, then that's good on you, but I try to take a very nuanced standpoint when it comes to her and the way she has like talked about certain things. I can link it down below if you like. I'm not sure if the English version is still up, but I actually read an article a couple of years ago from someone who is from the trans community and actually explains why it's sort of like a double-edged sword. But this ColourPop collection, it's super boring. Like the palette, I'm like, yeah, kinda, no, I don't understand. Just one of the highlighters, I believe it was the Buckbeak one, that one is described by ColourPop as a taupe highlighter. That's something I want to try, but everything else in this collection, I'm like, we didn't need any of it. So great that it's got Hogwarts branding, but no, I'm not gonna buy into it anytime soon. Dior, I don't know, is this holiday? I don't know, but the golden bouquet. And this looks like the more boring version of the House of Dreams that they already did last year. That was already like a lot of quite similar beigey taupey shades with a dark brown in the middle, and now they've like upped the ante and made it even more beige, and it looks like 4 identical shades, as in depth wise. They all have a slightly different undertone, but I don't think that will show up on your eyes necessarily. But yeah, if you're looking for a good one and done shadow kind of palette, then I love my House of Dreams for that. So this, I can see from the brand's perspective why they would do something like this, but I personally don't need this in my life. And then we have Ace Beauté. This came up on my feed. I was like, wait, what? Ace Beauté has a new palette? Okay. I don't think this was teased by any of the like usual makeup news Instagram accounts that I follow. So this kind of came as a surprise. And this is the Violet Sage eyeshadow palette. And this looks so pretty, but why are we getting this in September? Like, isn't this spring? Like, this to me looks like Valentine's spring. And for a palette called Violet Sage, there aren't enough violets and there aren't enough sagey greens, because we only get 2 greens and 2 purples, and everything else is a rendition of red or pink. So if this had more greens, like 4 greens, 4 purples, and then maybe like 2 of those pinky shades, like the top 2 pink shades in the left-hand corner, those I really like the look of. But the rest, I feel like the color story is just missing the mark for me a little bit. It's pretty. Like, this is one of those things where I'm like, yes, Ace Beauté is doing some interesting things again. They're still a brand that I'm sort of keeping an eye out on, because I love my Oceanic palette. That one I love. But they have been taken off the European market, so they are a little bit difficult to buy. I'd have to go through their US website, which I don't mind doing, but they do need to have a couple of things I'd like to get. And then this by itself, no can do. Now this is a palette that I've seen quite a lot of people already doing content with, the Sugar Drizzle The Mattes palette. And I honestly don't understand this, because it's all matte. Yes, it's got blue, yeah, it's got purples. It's got like 3 blues and like 2 turquoisey shades and a bit of mauve. But everything is like a different shade of purple. And they're all matte. You don't get a single shimmer. And then I'm like, who asked for this? Why do we make this? Because as much as I love a good purple, I don't need every purple in my life. Like, I just don't. So I don't really get this. Like, it looks really fun and vibrant, but I just know I wouldn't get the use out of it just because it's all matte. We don't get enough variation in, like, yeah, we get a lot of variation of purple, but we don't get a lot of things that we could combine. Or is it just me? Like, maybe you bought it and I'm totally trashing it right now, but no. Hourglass has finally read the room, and they have come out with new face palettes for a holiday, and it does come in different depths. Whereas before they would only do one of these and it always had the same shades in, and it was more aimed at very light-skinned people. So yeah, they seem to now have done a couple of different undertones in these palettes, lighter and darker and whatever. I have a couple of Hourglass powders that I love. I love a couple of the blushes, but I decided to pass up on these palettes because I already own some of those products that I love from them, and I don't need a face palette with those products in. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but yeah. For me, the Hourglass palettes just aren't the value for money. I'm better off at this point with the Hourglass products I already have to just buy a full size of the one product that really stands out to me. And I don't really care, because every year they look the same. So it's like 5 renditions of peach if you've bought all of these over the years, which I have no use for. Now this is one where I'm like, oh, if we're going fall palette, then this is what I would want. This is by Notoriously Morbid, which is an indie brand. And this is their, what was it called again? The Rusted Essence eyeshadow palette. Now I didn't really put this on a wish list, but this is one where I'm like, this is what I would have wanted the Hello Bean palette from Betty Bean with Shroud Cosmetics to be. There seem to be a couple of multi-chromes, but it seems to be lighter. The deepest shade we get is a purple, and there is some warmth, and there is a vibrant orange in, but I think it's a little bit more, well, maybe I should call it wearable. I don't know. This just seems like more my vibe than the Halloween palette, even though it does have 3 oranges. But this looks really pretty, I think. So maybe at some point, I'm not sure, is this limited edition? It doesn't say. It is $24.99, it says here. I have no clue whether this brand does international shipping or not. I mean, this would be something that I could try. At that price point, even if the shipping is outrageously expensive and I would have to pay for customs as well, it wouldn't be too bad because the palette just isn't that expensive. So yeah, this is something that I might put on a wish list, but I don't need this at the moment. But yeah, if there's an indie brand that I would like to try, then this is something that I would be interested in. Urban Decay, Naked. I don't know what the Robin Eisenberg palette. What did I tell you, Urban Decay? Stop doing the peachy tones in the lighter shades. And what are we getting? Peachy tones in the lighter shades. And then it goes into that reddish toned orange that we also got in the Naked Cyber. You guys, I'm gonna say it. For the first time, Urban Decay has released a Naked palette that I don't want. It's like, I was like very adamant a couple of months ago, going like, I'm going to just blindly buy every Urban Decay Naked palette that's going to be released because I love these palettes and I love trying them out. Literally the only thing that I would want from this palette are those 4 colorful shades on the end, and the rest make me go like, I don't really need this in my life. Like, it's got a really stunning periwinkle. It does, but I just, no can do. No can do. And then I did keep a couple of the Halloween collections in my selection here. Profusion has a Rituals collection. I mean, at this point, every single Halloween collection that I see starts to look the same, because looking at this picture, I can't tell whether this is Profusion, Makeup Revolution, or another brand, because it just, everything is styled the same way. I've tried Profusion in the past, wasn't a fan, I'm afraid, especially not of the bigger palettes. So, do I need this? No. Is it very Halloween? No. Again, something we could definitely do without. Nomad Cosmetics, they seem to be releasing a palette every month. I hadn't caught on to that yet, but apparently they're doing a new palette once a month. And for September, for September, October, the Hudson Valley has been announced. It's got a couple of lovely greens on the right side of the palette, but we also get a lot of warm tones that aren't really what I want. So for me, this is a pass. And fun fact, I apparently won something through the Nomad Cosmetics account. One of you lovely viewers entered me for one of their giveaways, and I actually won one of the palettes. I was allowed to pick whichever. So yeah, they should be sending that out to me. So I did pick the Monteverdi Cloud Forest because that I felt was a bit more unique in my collection compared to something like this. So yeah, hopefully that's going to make its way to me very soon. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about tracking or anything, but you know, hey, I won a prize, and I'm not gonna bother the brand asking where it's gonna be, but yeah, I'm sure it makes its way sometime soon. Another one of those Halloween collections that have been announced, the Makeup Revolution and Beetlejuice collection. Is there an IP that Makeup Revolution hasn't collabed with yet? Like, I'm wondering, because they do so many collab things, and this is cute. Is it very Beetlejuice though? The packaging is, but the products themselves, I know. A little bit maybe. Like, the swatches look promising, but I don't need this in my life. You know what's another thing I don't need in my life, and this may be a bit of a shocker? The new Pat McGrath holiday launch, the Celestial Nirvana collection. I was hoping, like, I was like, ooh, Pat McGrath, and they were like teasing that they were gonna make an announcement. I was like, ooh, that's fun. And now I'm like solid that the only thing I want from Pat McGrath that has been released this year is that Moonlit Seduction palette, because this collection, I'm like, really? So there are a couple of things that look very pretty. I mean, this is very Pat McGrath. The bigger palette seems to have like earthy tones, like your neutrals with a pop of green and gold. You have your cooler tones like lavender blues and some rosy things, and you have some warmer things on the end, which I think for the way this has been laid out, and especially for people who may want to dip their toes in and try the brand, because very often the holiday palette isn't as expensive as the other things. I'm not sure what this is gonna go for, but I think it's usually around like $75, which is a lot less expensive than one of the bigger motherships. So I can see why I like this from the brand, but I don't like it for me from the brand. And then they have 2 5-pans, and these look nice, but Pat McGrath needs to stop pretending that golds are cool tones, because the cool toned one, which is the bottom one here that I'm looking at the picture, is essentially 4 renditions of a gold with a charcoal grayish black. Like one of it is like more like a bronzy orangey tone gold, then we get like a brassy greenish antique gold, then we get something that's like borderline silver, and something that's champagne. I'm terribly sorry, but none of, like, the 4 shimmers, and all 4 of them, save for one, like they're all warm. Don't call it a cool tone palette if it's not cool toned. Thank you. Rant over. I'm terribly sorry, Pat McGrath, but you're not getting my money for your holiday collection. Then, Alien Cosmetics. No, Unearthly. I keep calling them Alien. That's their old name. New name is Unearthly Cosmetics. They have 4 eyeshadow palettes that they are releasing for Halloween. These should already be out. The 1964, the So Strange, the Weirdos, and the Warms My Blood. I like these, and at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. The So Strange one is the only one that truly, like, appeals to me. Like those, isn't that from The Craft, that 90s witchy movie? That was one of my favorite movies growing up. We used to watch that all the time when I was a teenager, so I have fond memories of that. Yeah, this has some like purples and rosy shades and like those murky greens, so that I like, but the other color stories just aren't really my vibe, and they are $50 US, which means they've upped their prices for sure, and the Warms My Blood is bigger, so that's $70. Like, if we're an indie brand, your formula has to be very special for me to be trying it at those price points. So, and Unearthly has pretty expensive shipping. I already know that because I own a couple of their palettes already. So for me, I'm gonna pass up because I would have to bulk buy these in order to make it worth it. And there's only one palette here that appeals to me. And then Fantasy Cosmetica has announced the Bard palette. And this is one of those like fall palettes where we just get a bunch of warm tones with a pop of blue. Is this really all that special? I don't feel it is. The Sorcerer palette that they came out with in between the Druid and this one, I feel is a little bit more my vibe, but it has a lot of bright pinks, which is another thing I don't need. So for now, Fantasy Cosmetica is something I'm passing up on, even though I love my Druid palette. It's really pretty, really nice quality. But these, I just don't need this in my life. It isn't special enough. I have those kind of shades a million times over. And then a palette that made me go at first, and I'm still doubting whether I want this. So talk to me in the comments if maybe you feel the same way. I'm talking about the Huda Beauty Empowered palette. This has some stunning cool tones, and then we get those yellow tone golds. So I'm sort of going here like, do I want this? I mean, if I cover up the 2 yellow tones, I really like the palette. It only seems to have a couple of peachy warm tone browns in the right hand corner, and everything else seems to be cool, save for those 2 very yellow tone shades. So part of me wants this. Part of me wants this. But there's also a part of me that goes, do I really need this? So this may be one of those things that, you know, if I'm shopping Black Friday sales, it might just end up in a cart, because I would only buy this if it's on a deal. Like, I will not, I just know right now, right off the bat, this is not something I'm gonna buy full price, because I have my reservations when it comes to some of these. There don't seem to be any weird shades in here. Like, no pressed glitters, no putty shades, no balls in jelly. It seems to have some really like, there seems to be some taupey, bronzy shades and like a silvery shade and some plummy things and some gray tones, some taupes. So the majority of this palette appeals to me. There's only 4 shades here that made me go like, but they are the ones that sort of catch your eye. So help a girl out. Do you want me to review this for you? Yes or no? And then I might end up buying this. Not anytime soon. I'm not gonna hop on the bandwagon straight away. Maybe watch some reviews and watch some swatches and all that. And maybe it's less intense if you see it in real life. I don't know. I also feel that this picture just makes it look a certain way. The next palette I need to talk about is by Glaminatrix, and this is their Glamorous palette. So I just got my Glaminatrix order in. In fact, by the time you're watching this, no, I haven't shown you that yet, but if you watch my next makeup haul, which is going to go up on Friday, I will show you what I got from Glaminatrix. And this palette, I mean, yeah, it's pretty, but this is not a color story that makes me go, yeah, I need this in my life. Plus, I've just bought from the brand. It's all the way from Australia, so it was quite expensive to get them, and their palettes are not cheap. These are, again, like $57, like $60, so they're quite expensive for an indie brand. And to be quite fair, I will be mentioning it in my haul, but one of the palettes I got, which seems to be in similar packaging to this, I feels quite cheap packaging wise. Not the quality of the shadows, but the packaging just feels very cheaply made. So I don't, from that perspective, I don't feel it's worth it. Like, if I pay $60 for a palette, I also want the experience of a nice palette, which that one didn't give me. So this one seems to be styled in a similar way, so I don't need this in my life. I mentioned at the start of the video that I was going to mention ColourPop a few times here, and I have to mention the Hocus Pocus 2. This is already out. Yes, I think this is already out. And again, I mean, it's a Disney collab. That's why I want to talk about it. With this, I just feel that, you know, they're just sort of riding the wave of the popularity of the first launch that they had. And I look at this and I go, what does this have to do with Hocus Pocus? It's another one of those like Halloween-y, spooky, but not quite kind of movies that I think I actually watched this as a kid. It wasn't even a teen thing. It was more of a kid thing. So I have very fond memories of the movie for sure. But I don't get the color story. I don't love this. It just feels so far removed from the vibe that I got. Granted, we would watch it, like rented from our VHS place, and that VHS was a little run down, and I don't know if you remember anything from VHS, but the colors started to get less saturated the more you played the tape. And that's what happened here. So I don't remember these kind of vibrant colors going on in that movie at all. In my memory, it was all quite like murky greens, and like especially with that little shed where they brew the potion. Yeah, where they suck out the souls from children. That I remember, but I'm like, I don't remember vibrant greens and pinks and oranges and purples showing up in this kind of thing. So feels a bit overdone. Maybe it's because of the new movie though. Isn't there a new movie? I don't know. For me, it just doesn't go with the vibe, so no can do. Melt Cosmetics then. I was so excited. I saw Melt teasing that they were gonna release something new, and I was like, oh, yes. And then we get 4 palettes, and all of them look like things I already own, so I don't need this. The only 2 that sort of would have been nice are the Water and the Earth. The Fire is far too warm toned. The Air doesn't have enough purples for the purple packaging. Again, it's a lot of peachy tones, so I didn't love that. The Earth palette has too many warm tones and only one green, so I would have wanted more greens in that. And the Water one is the only one that's truly left as something that could spark my interest, but I feel it's too similar to the Blueprint that I already owned from them. The Smoke Sessions has these kind of shades in. I already have these shades from the brand, so why would I buy this? I understand that a lot of people are going to love this probably, and they're going to love it hard because Melt usually has pretty good quality eyeshadow in my book, but this is just nothing new from them. It looks like every Zodiac palette that has come out in recent years. Melt can do better. Then Beauty Bay has the Dark Fantasy collection coming out. Holiday collection, is it, right? It's already out, and it's grungy greens, some purples, like we've got some cool tones in here, and this, it is kind of pulling on my heartstrings, but this is doing one of the things that I felt the Age of Opulence did as well. It's not as bad in this one, but they've sort of arranged it in such a way that your eye is very much drawn into it. But then when you actually, if you were to reorganize the color story, you would see that there's actually a lot of browns and like very similar-ish shades, but just because they have been pulled apart and like organized in a certain way, it looks a lot more unique, and it doesn't look like you're getting as many doubles or like shades that are really close together. They did the same thing in the Age of Opulence, which is one of the things that I didn't love about the Age of Opulence. Said it many times. If they would have curated it more and just given me the brighter, more saturated jewel tones from that, I would have liked it better. And I kind of feel the same way here, because what appears to be like a taupey silver is just straight up silver. I just don't think it's going to be special enough, knowing also that I don't love the Beauty Bay formula. Maybe this formula is again different because their formula is very inconsistent, I have found. So whatever palette you buy, it's like a different consistency, like quality every single time. And I know a lot of people love it, like these very sort of creamy, shimmery formulas, but I struggle picking those up with a brush, and I have found, now that I have depotted some of the shades, that there's very little product in every single pan. They look really big, but you get as much shadow as you do in a standard round pan. Like, I press some of these into Kaleidos Futurism palettes, like those size pans, and they barely fit the pan. So there's very little eyeshadow in these shades as well. I'm sure it's stunning. I'm sure a lot of people are going to love really hard on this. I don't need it in my life. Lethal Cosmetics has a new collab with Theresa is Dead. This is the Theresa is Lethal collection. And I mean, I have to hand it to her. I love a bit of Theresa is Dead. I don't watch her channel regularly, but I do watch, like, it's one of those channels that I pop in and out of, like, whenever I feel I want to watch something, then she always has a video I can go to, but I'm not even subscribed to her. But I do like her content for sure. It's just that this color story it doesn't really feel like me. So I love that she has a new collab. I'm definitely still, like, I already built it. It's already sitting in my palette designer on the website, but a couple of the shades I want to get are out of stock. So I did build myself a new Lethal palette, and when things come back in stock, I will be purchasing a new Lethal palette for sure. I hope to be able to do that at the end of October, maybe end of November, but I definitely want to get some more Lethal shadows because I love them, and I want to try their multi-chromes really desperately. So Lethal is definitely a brand that's very much still on the map, but these are not the kind of shades that I need in my life. Now, Fenty has a couple of new things coming out as well. This is their holiday collection that we're looking at right now, which seems to have a cream blush and bronzer duo thingy. I'm intrigued. That looks stunning. They seem to also have like a lip set. I think it's going to be like a little lip set, so that may be pretty. And they have also announced the like ice, like the one that should be cooling on your lips but still plumping as well, the Ice Gloss Balm. So they have a couple of new releases out that intrigue me. This collection I think looks really stunning, and I did book myself a ticket to go to Paris again at the end of November. So I hope by that time this is still in stock at Sephora there, and then I might be able to check it out in real life because these look stunning. And yeah, I would like to see them in real life before I make up my mind, but that looks stunning. Then we have the new ABH palette that has been announced. Like, ABH is dropping palettes left and right again. First we got that Primrose palette, then the Nouveau, now this one. It's called Rose Metals. And again, like, I'm confused because this is one of those palettes that whichever picture I've seen of it, it looks different every single time. I'm not sure if you're noticing it. In some of these some of the pictures I've seen, it looks very warm toned. And then in others, it looks more like rosy with cool tone neutrals and a couple of warm tones. So from this picture, this is Angelica's picture, there seems to be like 4 rosy shades in the top left corner. Then we get some like taupey things, we get some bronzy things, we get a peachy thing, we get some cool tone shimmer and another like warm mauvey brownish sort of shade in the right hand corner. So there's a good amount of shades here that I like. But I'm on the fence about this one. I don't think I need this. I like my Nouveau palette, but I feel that this suffers from the same thing that I feel the Nouveau, like, that I don't like about the Nouveau, which is those warm tones. I mean, it's got some pretty shades, but I don't think I need this in my life. And I didn't love the shimmer formula in the Nouveau. I felt it didn't build very well. So I don't think I need this. Again, like the Huda, this may be something that I want to like throw in a bag sometime. Like if it's Black Friday and I can get a good deal on it, it may still end up in my life. But right now I'm like, maybe not. Because really the only 2 shades that really draw me in are those like taupey neutrals in the middle of the palette. Do I need to buy a palette at the price point that ABH goes for 2 shades? The answer is no. They also have come out with a Glam to Go palette or something. I'm not sure when this is gonna drop, but this was announced as well. It looks like an edited version of the Rose Metals, and this actually appeals to me more. Seems to have like 1, maybe 2 true warm tones, but I do think it has different shades. I can't really read the shade names on this picture, but yeah, in a swatch, it does seem to have quite a lot of rosy peachy tones. So again, perhaps not exactly right for me personally, so I'm gonna pass up on these. But then something that really, really excites me, and I haven't heard anybody talking about this, but there's a new Tartelette palette been announced, the Energy palette. And it looks like what I would have wanted the Juicy to be. So it seems to have more like rosy shades in the top row, more like pinky shades, cool toned. And then it seems to have some more like rosy mauvey shades in the middle with a plum. And then we get a row of warm tones. So this is almost like, yeah, this very much has me intrigued. I hope I can buy this when I'm in Paris in Sephora at the end of November. But yeah, this does look really stunning. This looks really, really stunning. I don't, when is this supposed to drop? Oh yeah, it says here it's neutral, mauve, and plum eyeshadows. That's sort of like the color story they go for. It doesn't say, it just says coming soon. So no idea when this is gonna drop, but I spotted this and I was like, oh, now I can never get rid of the Toasted palette, of course, because I have a little family of 4 if I buy this as well. Like this is pulling on my heartstrings. Not the bottom row, but the top and the middle row. Those look really stunning to me. And then this is one of the releases that I was really waiting for them to reveal the full thing. I'm talking about Game Beauty here. They're going to be releasing the Cyberpunk palette. When is this going to? Oh, it's available now. And this was one that they were teasing on their website, and the packaging looks gorgeous. And Game Beauty is one of those brands where I bought the first 3 palettes they launched in like a little bundle summer last year. And then for fall, they released the Harbinger. I never know how to pronounce that word. They released that palette. It looked really stunning, but given that this is a US-based indie brand and the amount of shipping fees I would have to pay for, I was like, I'm not gonna buy just one palette. Now that they are releasing this, I'm like, I could do 2 at the same time. Their palettes are around the 40-45 euro mark, I believe. And this, I mean, in the palette itself, I don't love the color story. It doesn't look as vibrant as the front does, I feel. But if I look at the swatches on a fair skin tone that they have included, then there are a couple of really stunning shades there. There's a really lovely like purpley blue, like that blacklight purple that I love, shimmer in here. We get some rosy, mauvey pinks, some violety shades. We only get one very random shade, and this is a thing that Game Beauty does. They usually throw in like a wild card, which is like a warm toned yellowy oak, like mustardy yellow shade. But I think I can see that going really well with the rest. So I'm intrigued with this. There's only 3 shimmers though. That's the only thing. But yeah, there are some neons in here. So I'd like to try that from them. And then I just spotted today that Kaleona is releasing some bundles for Halloween. And they are promoting this as being great for people who would like to try multi-chromes, because it also comes with one of their smaller stained glass palettes if you buy this. So you get 9 shades from the stained glass collection plus one of the palettes. And it's quite expensive though. It's $59 Canadian dollars, which is 115 US dollars. But Kaleona stained glass shadows tend to be more expensive anyways. Like one of these can already go for as much as 25 Canadian dollars. I remember that from making those purchases myself. I already have quite a few of these, so I would only like pick and choose from the singles that they still have. So for me, this isn't interesting at all. But if you are someone who has never tried Kaleona multi-chromes before, then I can definitely see where they're coming from. And I think this is a very clever launch. And it has a couple of my favorite shades, especially the second one, Gloaming, Opulent, Forge. Those are some really, really stunning shades. And in the first one, Oculus is really stunning too. So there are a lot of things here that are very, very stunning. So I think that's a good try. Then we have Charlotte Tilbury. This is also hot off the press. She's coming out with single eyeshadows. And there is one called Smoky Quartz. And there's also a blue shade, but the blue shade isn't listed what the name is, because that blue shade really, really just intrigues me. So this comes in a few shades, and I just think that this is, yeah. This looks very stunning. Do I need this? No, but if this is a good formula, so I'm going to wait for some people to review this first, and then we'll see. And then of course, I've saved the best for last, because a lot of people, when I filmed my video, when I posted my video for last Friday, a lot of people were telling me, like I was talking about in that video about the Venus XL 2 from Lime Crime, and mentioning how it's like a bigger version of Natasha Denona Mini Retro, but something has been leaked. We don't know anything else about this. I don't even know if this is real at the moment, but there seems to be a retro glam palette coming in the midi size from Natasha Denona, which looks like a bigger version of the Mini Retro. So it has those like mauvey shades. It's got some taupey browns in there, some like cooler tones, not too many dark tones, and then those sagey minty greens that the Retro has as well. So if this is real, I don't know anything else about it. I haven't really kept up with like the chatter on this, but this looks like something I'm definitely going to buy. But that being said, I don't think we're gonna get this anytime soon. This to me looks like a spring release. So for me, I think, because we only just got the My Dream palette, which I ordered, so that's making its way to me so that I can test out whether it's as warm toned or cool toned as the pictures make it seem to be, or whoever you're chatting to. But that just came out, and very often for holiday, Natasha Denona does a bigger palette. So usually it's a mini palette, and then a midi palette, and then a larger palette, and then we get a mini, and then a midi again. So I don't think this is going to come our way anytime soon. I think this is going to release around the time that the pastels came out this year, which was like what, February, March? So I'm not expecting this to come our way anytime soon. But yeah, this has like the entire beauty community abuzz. There's a lot of chatter about this one, so I couldn't miss out on mentioning this. But yeah, if this thing happens, if this is real, it seems to be real, then I'm gonna snatch it up for sure. I wanna try this, and it could very well be that if this is any good, I might like it better than the Venus XL 2, because there are a couple of shades in there that are more like toppery and not as textured, and Natasha Denona can do really good textures. That said, now, though, looking at this, there are a lot of mattes for my taste. So we haven't seen any swatches yet, so I'm going to wait on some more news on that one. So yeah, those are all of the releases I wanted to mention in today's video. Leave a comment down below with the release that stood out the most to you. I would be very curious to know. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I do this kind of video just once a month, but I do lots of other videos throughout the month as well. So do lots of eyeshadow palette content at least once a week right now, and I'm very happy that I got around to doing that. So yeah, if you want to hear me chat about more makeup, then definitely stay tuned. For now, just take care. Have a really great Sunday, everybody, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!